Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight we're going to be talking about Rentvesting. What is it and how it can benefit you? I'm here with my colleague Ileana tonight, our rentals expert, and we're going to be talking about quite a unique strategy that I think a lot of people may have overlooked on the Northern Beaches, and something that can really help a lot of people, I think, get onto the property ladder. So for tonight, we'll start with when you're going to buy a family home, and it's a big topic of discussion at the moment where a lot of families, and we're going to talk about mainly the Northern Beaches, obviously being our core market, a lot of people are thinking, okay, we want to get into the property market. We're not sure because the property market's coming down at the moment. Interest rates are going up. It's tough to buy a property.
Yeah, living expenses.
Correct. So what do? We want to buy a house, but even an entry-level home on the Northern Beaches is still looking at high 1 millions, $2 million is a round number. So it's still expensive to get into. And I think it's out of reach for a lot of families.
Yes.
So what we're going to be discussing is a strategy where it allows you to live where you want to live, but also be able to still get onto that merry-go-round and still get into the property market. So we'll start with houses. If you're a family on the Northern Beaches, Ileana, how much would you pay for a lovely, let's say, 2-story brick, 4-bedroom house? How much would you pay in rent?
In rent, probably looking at about $1,500 a week.
$1,500.
Yeah.
And what sort of property is that? Is that renovated near the beach?
Renovated near the beach. You're looking at about close to $2,000. A little bit further from the beach, nicely renovated house, 4-bedroom, 2 bathrooms. Yeah. Probably about that $1,500.
$1,500.
Yeah, solid, good home.
So to give you an idea, a house that, let's say, rents for $1,500 a week, these renovated homes that Ileana's talking about, in today's market would probably sell for about $2.5 million. Yep. Your entry-level homes are around $2 million, and they're more unrenovated, and your renovated homes are still around that sort of mid-twos. So when you think about it, a home in the mid-twos at a 5% interest rate is going to cost you about, do the maths in my head, about $125,000 a year on your mortgage. Yes. So to give you an idea, per week for rent, that's going to be, I'm just going off for rough numbers, guys. That's going to be about $2,500 roughly a week, or maybe a little bit less, on mortgage repayments. You can rent this exact same house for $1,500 a week. So for a family wanting to get into the market, you're going, I can either rent the house that we love for $1,500 a week, or if we wanted to buy it, it's going to cost us $2,500 a week. Instead of buying the house and spending $2,500 a week, rent where you want to live. Yes. And instead, go buy what you can afford and still get into the property market. Yeah. And we were speaking about it before, where a lot of families get caught. They're always trying to you're trying to save up. You're trying to save up to be able to buy the house, and one way or another gets away from you. Like the last couple of years, the property market flies up, gets way too expensive, and it goes quicker than you can save. Yeah. Or on top of that, or at the moment,
interest rates are going up.
Interest rates are going up, so we can't afford it.
People can't afford to borrow. Yeah.
And so I think it's just a brilliant strategy where you go rent where you want to live, and then you go buy what you can afford. So, for example, instead, go buy a 1-bedroom unit for $600,000. Rents for, let's say, roughly $500 a week, $450 a week. Pays most of itself off, but at least you're on the property merry-go-round. Yes. And it's a really interesting concept because it allows families to build up a portfolio, buy properties. They're going up in value, but as still living where you want to live as well. And then down the track, you've got more equity over the next 10 years, 5 years, sell the properties off, go buy exactly what you want to buy as well.
Exactly.
So it's an interesting strategy, and also with the rental market at the moment as well. Are you having issues renting any of these properties?
None whatsoever. We were saying we had a house in Beacon Hill on the weekend, about 20 groups, and had applications this morning. With apartments as well, we're seeing people trying to offer 6 months rent up front to try and get in. Big numbers coming through, and pretty much everything's leasing. If it's priced right after the first open. So it's moving quickly. So it's great because I guess for a lot of people as well, you're thinking, well, it's a risk. What happens if the tenant moves out? It's vacant for a while, or it doesn't happen.
All the risk. The great thing is, especially if you're buying Northern Beaches real estate, it's you're not going to have a big vacancy rate, which is great. And on top of that, the lovely thing is rents are now starting to move up across the board as well. And it's interesting to see because rents have not really moved at all the past 10 years.
Well, we were saying upstairs just before.
We were looking before, and Ileana was showing me that the past 10 years, rents have moved up in total about 20% over the past 10 years. So like a a $450 one bedder that was rented for $450 a week.
Yeah.
Now might rent for $550 a week. And that's been a slow move over the past 10 years.
Yes.
Where really the past 3 months, 6 months, we've seen similar growth.
Yes.
In what took years beforehand.
That's correct.
And there's been a range of factors for that as well. Obviously, interest rates going up, so investors are wanting to put up the costs. And on top of that, there is just that natural growth of rents that need to move as well, where they haven't moved in quite a while. Everything else is getting so expensive.
Yeah.
Keeps in line with everything else. So it's an interesting strategy, guys, that I think is something that's probably not talked about as much because everyone talks about buying your first home.
Yeah.
And as, I guess, prestigious as it might be, sometimes it's not necessarily the best financial decision to make, where you can get yourself easily caught in a big mortgage where
and you can't do nothing else.
No.
That's what we're saying upstairs. Can't go on holidays.
Yeah,
it's
very true. And you just get caught stuck just paying off the mortgage, where there's other, I think, lucrative strategies such as this, and obviously speak to your accountant, speak to your brokers to discuss it.
Or you.
Or your real estate agent, which will allow you to pretty much live where you want to live, still be able to create wealth for yourself as well. Because a lot of Australians, obviously, we love our property as a vehicle to create wealth.
Yes.
So if you can live where you want to live, you still get to create wealth. You get the best of both worlds. So interesting strategy, guys. Something worth looking into. Going off the back of that and talking about, I guess, a little bit more about the rental market, where do you see rentals moving over the next 12 months? Because I think it's an interesting question that has sparked a lot of people's attention where people are worried, especially at the moment. Let's say if your lease is coming up or you're looking at a potentially new rental, is it just overinflated where it's all of a sudden going to drop off like the property market, or do you think it's going to keep going up?
I think it's going to keep going up, and we did the calculation again upstairs. We said that what it did in the past 10 years, it's pretty much going to do in the next 12 months.
Yeah.
The growth that we've seen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if you're a tenant at the moment now, would you be looking to move property? Like, let's say you're coming up towards the end of your lease. Are you looking to try and
re-sign the lease and try and negotiate the rent and try not to move?
Re-sign the
lease. Yeah.
That's interesting because, we are seeing really low vacancy rates. And as a bit of a metric, even as a company, the amount of properties we have for lease at the moment is extraordinarily lower than what it used to be. And that's always a good gauge for us to see how the rental market's moving. When there's not many properties out for lease, that rental prices seem to start pushing up as well. So it's an interesting thing to see because it is a double-edged sword for a lot of people. It's hard because obviously the cost of living is just going up in every which way. But I guess instead of trying to fight the flow and just to be aware of it, to use it to your advantage, because as much as your rents are going up, the flip side is we've got to pay to live somehow. So it's either we rent or we pay a mortgage. Mortgages are going up much, much more. They're still going up quicker than what it costs to rent. Now the rents might go up, like we said, 10, 20%. Interest rates have literally doubled a lot of people's repayments at the moment on their mortgages. So it's gone up 100%. It's something that it's interesting just to sit down, crunch the numbers, because I think you'll find there's a few different ways to sort of tweak it and hopefully have a better way for your family.
That's it.
So anything else you got to add, Ileana?
No, I think that's about it.
So guys, just something that we wanted to talk about tonight, just give you guys something a bit different to the usual, open your sphere of thinking as well about it. Any questions that any of you have as well, please feel free to put it through in the comments. We're happy to answer it afterwards as well, because there's so many different avenues you can go off with this strategy also. I think it's personally very, very cool. The fact that, like, to give you an extreme example, we just sold a beautiful home on the weekend, 2 Reddle Street in Manly, sold for $21.5 million. Now that's a once in a lifetime property. If you want to live in that, you got to pay $21.5 million to be there. The rental income on that is $3,600 a week.
Yeah, and Michael did the calculation.
I thought
he loves his numbers.
I do like my numbers. So even if you're paying roughly a 5% interest rate on a $20 million loan, you're talking $1 million a year. So that's about $20,000 a week for someone to live there. Extreme example, I know, but it's the point is the same. Versus renting there, $3,600 a week. It's just a no-brainer in that regard. So, and this strategy is not necessarily right for everyone. Everyone's got different financial positions, but it's just something that really sort of takes away from the norm because most people think, okay, the Aussie dream, you've got to buy your own family home and then you're doing well financially. And sometimes that can be the thing that cripples you the most because you've got no money for anything else. Versus if you can rent where you want to live, you can invest where you want to invest, you can have the best of both.
That's it.
Beautiful.
Well done.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Any
Thank you
questions,
so
as I said,
much.
fire away through the comments. I'm happy to answer from there. Have a good evening. Cheers.
Good night.